Have you ever wondered why, no matter how hard you work, no matter how faithful you are, financial stability still seems out of reach? You look around and see people who care nothing about God, yet they are thriving. They have everything they could ever want, while you struggle to make ends meet. It does not make sense, does it? If you are chosen, if you are walking the path God has set for you, then why is life so difficult? Why does it feel like every step forward comes with another setback? The truth is, what you are going through is not random. It is not a mistake. You are not being punished. There is something much deeper happening here, something that most people do not understand. You see, being chosen means walking a different path. It means living by a different set of rules, ones that do not always align with the world's standards of success. When God has a calling on your life, when you are meant for something greater, your journey will never look like everyone else's. Think about it. Every great man or woman of God went through a season of lack, a season of struggle, before stepping into their purpose. Joseph was thrown into a pit and sold into slavery before he ruled Egypt. David was anointed king but spent years hiding in caves before he ever sat on the throne. Even Jesus himself walked through seasons of hunger, rejection, and hardship before fulfilling his mission. If they had to go through it, why would your journey be any different? One of the biggest reasons chosen ones struggle financially is because God is testing and refining them. He is preparing them for something greater, and part of that preparation involves learning to trust Him completely. It is easy to have faith when everything is going well, when the bills are paid and life is comfortable. But real faith is built in the struggle. It is built in those moments when you have nothing left but God. When you do not know where your next meal is coming from, when you are praying for a breakthrough that seems like it will never come, that is when true faith is forged. God does not just hand out blessings to anyone. He prepares people to handle them. If you are meant to carry something great, whether it is influence, wealth, or responsibility, you have to be shaped and molded into the person who can carry it well. And that process is not easy. It involves being stripped of everything that is not essential. It means learning to rely on God, not money, not people, not your own strength, but Him alone. Look back at your own life. Have you ever noticed that every time you think you are about to get ahead, something happens that knocks you back down? You finally get a little savings, and suddenly, an unexpected bill wipes it out. You get a new job, but it does not pay enough to cover everything. You work hard, yet no matter what you do, you never seem to break through to the next level. That is not a coincidence. That is the process. When God is preparing you, He removes your ability to depend on anything other than Him. He does not want you putting your trust in a paycheck. He does not want you looking to the world for security. He wants you to know deep in your soul that He alone is your provider. And sometimes the only way to teach that lesson is to take everything else away. It is not easy. It is not fun. But it is necessary. Because when the time comes for Him to bless you, when He finally opens the doors that no man can shut, He wants to make sure that money will never own you. He wants to know that success will never pull you away from Him. He wants to be certain that when you receive what you have been praying for, you will not forget who gave it to you. Many people fail this test. They grow bitter. They lose faith. They start questioning God, asking why He is allowing them to suffer. They begin to envy those who seem to have it easy. But chosen ones, true chosen ones, understand that the struggle is not the end. It is the beginning. It is the foundation of something much greater. If you are going through this right now, if you are feeling like no matter what you do, nothing is working, I want you to know that you are not alone. You are not forgotten. And most importantly, you are not being punished. God is working behind the scenes even if you cannot see it. There is a purpose to your struggle. And here is the most important thing to remember. This season will not last forever. There will come a day when you look back and realize that every hardship, every disappointment, every moment of lack was actually preparing you for something much greater. You just have to hold on. You just have to trust that God is not done with you yet. Now let us go even deeper, because there is something else at play here, something that many people overlook. It is not just about faith. It is not just about testing. There are forces working against you that you need to be aware of, forces that are actively trying to keep you from stepping into the abundance that God has planned for you. There is a reason why financial struggles seem to follow those who are chosen. It is not just about learning faith or developing trust in God. There is also a battle happening in the spiritual realm, a battle that most people do not see. When you are called for something great, when God has placed a powerful anointing on your life, the enemy takes notice. And he will do everything in his power to keep you from walking into the fullness of what God has planned for you. One of the biggest ways the enemy tries to hinder chosen ones is through financial oppression. He knows that if he can keep you struggling, if he can keep you worrying about how to pay your bills, he can distract you from your purpose. He knows that if you are constantly in survival mode, you will not have the time, energy, or resources to focus on what God has truly called you to do. Think about it. How many times have you felt led to start something, whether it is a ministry, a business, or a project that could help others, but you stopped because you did not have the money? How many dreams have been put on hold because of financial limitations? How many times have you wanted to give more, to help more, to be more generous, but you simply did not have the means to do it? That is not just life, that is spiritual warfare. The enemy knows that wealth in the hands of the righteous is dangerous to his kingdom. When God's people have financial abundance, they fund missions, they support ministries, they help the poor, they change lives. But when they are struggling just to survive, they are too occupied with their own needs to focus on anything greater. This is why chosen ones often experience strange financial attacks. Money that should have come in somehow gets delayed or lost. Unexpected expenses pop up at the worst possible times. Doors that seem like they are opening suddenly close without explanation. It feels like something is actively working against you, and in many cases, something is. But here is the good news. No attack of the enemy can override the will of God. No matter how hard the enemy tries to keep you down, he cannot stop what God has already ordained. He can delay it. He can make it difficult, but he cannot prevent it from happening. And once you understand that, once you recognize what is happening, you can begin to fight back. That is why perspective is so important. When you recognize that your financial struggle is not just about money but about your destiny, it changes the way you handle it. Instead of feeling defeated, instead of wondering why God is allowing this to happen, you start to see it for what it really is. You are under attack because you are a threat, and that should not discourage you. That should encourage you, because it means that the enemy sees something in you that is worth fighting against. This is why it is so important not to give up. The enemy wants you to quit. He wants you to get so frustrated, so discouraged, that you abandon your calling. He wants you to stop believing that God will provide, but you cannot give him that victory. You have to stand firm in your faith, even when things do not make sense. And that is where obedience comes in. Sometimes, financial struggle is not just about testing or spiritual warfare. Sometimes it is about alignment. God may be trying to shift you into something new, something greater, but you are still holding on to old ways of thinking, old habits, or even old places that are no longer meant for you. Have you ever felt like God was leading you in a certain direction, but you hesitated because it did not seem practical? Maybe he was telling you to step out in faith, to start something new, to trust him in a deeper way, but you were too afraid of the financial risk. If that is the case, your financial struggle might not be a punishment, it might be a redirection. When God is calling you to a new season, sometimes he has to dry up the resources in the old one to get you to move. He knows that as long as you are comfortable, as long as things are stable, you will stay where you are. But when things start to shift, when money is not flowing the way it used to, when doors start closing, that is often a sign that he is trying to push you into something better. This is why prayer and discernment are so important. When you are going through financial hardship, the first thing you should ask is, what is God trying to teach me? Is this a test of my faith? Is this an attack from the enemy? Or is this a sign that I need to move in a different direction? Because once you understand the root of the struggle, you can begin to respond the right way. If it is a test, you endure it with faith, knowing that God will provide. If it is spiritual warfare, you fight back with prayer, fasting, and declaration of God's promises. If it is a redirection, you seek clarity and move in obedience. The worst thing you can do is allow financial struggles to shake your faith, because that is exactly what the enemy wants. He wants you to believe that God has forgotten you. He wants you to think that your prayers are not being heard. He wants you to start doubting, questioning, and eventually giving up. But the truth is, your struggle is proof that you are on the right path. It is proof that something greater is coming. So do not be discouraged. Do not lose hope. Hold on to the promises of God, because no matter what it looks like right now, your story is not over. What you are facing today is just a chapter, not the entire book. And when God turns the page, when He finally brings you into the season He has been preparing you for, you will look back at this time and realize that every hardship, every moment of lack, was actually shaping you for the abundance that is on its way. When you look at the lives of those who have been called for something greater, there is always a common pattern. Seasons of struggle always come before seasons of breakthrough. There is always a time of testing before a time of elevation. But the difference between those who step into their calling and those who do not is how they handle the struggle. Some people allow it to break them, while others let it shape them. God is not interested in quick success. He is interested in longevity. He is not just trying to bless you for a moment. He is trying to prepare you for something that will last. That is why He takes His time. That is why He allows you to go through the process. Because He knows that if you receive a blessing too soon, before your character is ready to handle it, that same blessing could destroy you. Look at the story of the prodigal son. He received his inheritance too soon, and because he was not ready for it, he wasted it. He was given wealth before he had the wisdom to manage it, and as a result, he lost everything. God does not want that for you. He does not want to give you something that will be gone in an instant. He wants to build you into the kind of person who can sustain and multiply what He gives you. That is why so many chosen ones go through seasons of financial struggle. It is not because they are forgotten, it is because they are being prepared. They are being taught discipline, faith, and responsibility. They are learning how to handle what is coming. But there is another reason why chosen ones struggle financially. Many of them have been called to operate in a completely different financial system. They are not meant to rely on the world's way of doing things. They are not meant to chase money like everyone else. They are meant to operate under kingdom principles, which often do not make sense to the natural mind. The world says you need to climb the corporate ladder, hustle non-stop, and do whatever it takes to secure wealth. But God's way is different. His system is built on trust, generosity, and obedience. That is why some chosen ones find themselves in financial hardship, not because they are doing something wrong, but because they are learning a completely new way of operating. If God is calling you to a different financial system, He will allow the old one to fail. He will allow things that used to work to stop working. He will allow jobs to dry up, opportunities to disappear, and resources to shift, not to harm you, but to push you into the place where you fully depend on Him. This is why giving is such a powerful principle in the kingdom. It does not make sense to the world. The idea of giving when you do not have enough seems completely illogical. But in God's economy, giving is what unlocks abundance. When you release what is in your hand, you make room for what God wants to place in it. Many chosen ones struggle financially because they are still thinking with a scarcity mindset. They are still holding on too tightly to what they have, afraid that if they give, they will not have enough. But true abundance comes when you trust that God is your source, not your paycheck, not your job, not the economy, but Him alone. Once you shift into this mindset, things begin to change. Resources start coming from unexpected places. Opportunities start opening that you never saw before. Because you are no longer operating under the limitations of the world, you are now operating under the favor of God. And that favor is powerful. That favor can take you places that money never could. It can open doors that qualifications never will, but you have to trust it. You have to be willing to step out in faith, even when it does not make sense. So if you are struggling financially, do not see it as a sign that you are failing. See it as a sign that you are being repositioned. See it as a sign that you are being invited into something greater. Because financial hardship is never the end of the story for those who are chosen. It is just a part of the process. And when that process is complete, when you have been refined, when you have learned to trust God with everything, you will walk into a level of provision that is beyond anything you could have imagined. Not just for yourself, but so that you can be a blessing to others. Because that is what kingdom wealth is all about. It is never just about you. It is about impact. It is about legacy. It is about using what you have been given to advance God's purpose. So hold on, keep believing, keep trusting, because your breakthrough is coming. And when it does, you will understand why you had to go through everything that led up to it. When you begin to understand the deeper purpose behind financial struggles, something shifts inside you. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of your circumstances and start recognizing that every hardship is shaping you for something greater. You realize that what looks like a setback is actually a setup. And when you start to embrace this truth, your entire perspective changes. God never allows suffering without a purpose. Every challenge, every moment of lack, every season of uncertainty is preparing you for the next level. But the key is to remain faithful during the process. The enemy wants you to give up. He wants you to doubt God's promises. He wants you to believe that your situation will never change. But that is a lie. Because if God has called you, He will provide for you. If He has chosen you, He will sustain you. Sometimes financial struggles come as a test of obedience. God may ask you to step into something that does not make sense in the natural. He may call you to leave a job, start a ministry, or pursue something that seems completely impractical. And in those moments, your faith is being tested. Will you trust Him even when the numbers do not add up? Will you step out in faith even when you do not have all the answers? That is where breakthrough happens. When you stop relying on logic and start relying on His voice. When you let go of fear and step fully into obedience. Because the moment you align yourself with His plan, doors will begin to open, provision will start flowing, but it takes complete surrender. Many chosen ones struggle because they are still trying to operate under the world system while expecting kingdom results. But you cannot serve two masters. You cannot put your trust in money and expect supernatural provision. You have to make a choice. Kingdom wealth is not about chasing money, it is about chasing purpose. And when you chase purpose, provision follows. That is why some of the wealthiest people in the Bible never pursued riches. They pursued God, and because of that, everything they needed was added to them. When you finally shift into this mindset, something changes in your spirit. You stop stressing over money. You stop worrying about how things will work out, because you know that God is your provider. And once you reach that place of trust, you become unstoppable. So if you are struggling financially, take a moment to ask yourself, what is God trying to teach me? Is He stretching my faith? Is He testing my obedience? Is He shifting me into something new? Because once you recognize the lesson, you can move forward with confidence. This is not the end of your story. This is just a chapter, and the season you are in right now is preparing you for the abundance that is coming. When you finally step into it, you will not only be grateful for the blessing, but you will also understand why the struggle was necessary. Because those who are chosen are never meant to live in lack. They are meant to live in overflow. But first, they have to be shaped, refined, and prepared to handle it. And that is exactly what God is doing in your life right now. Stay faithful, keep believing. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. Many people assume that financial struggles mean they are on the wrong path. They think that if God were truly with them, they would not be facing hardship. But the truth is, some of the most anointed people in history went through intense seasons of lack before stepping into their purpose. Look at Moses. He spent 40 years in the wilderness before leading God's people to freedom. Look at Elijah. He had to rely on ravens to bring him food before he stepped into his greatest moments of power. Even Paul, one of the most influential apostles, spoke about knowing what it was like to be in need and what it was like to have plenty. God never promised that the journey would be easy, but He did promise that He would be with us through it all. And if you hold on, if you remain faithful even in the struggle, you will come out on the other side stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the blessings that are coming. There is something powerful about endurance. Those who refuse to quit, who keep pressing forward no matter how hard things get, are the ones who see the greatest breakthroughs. Because the enemy's biggest weapon is discouragement. If he can convince you to give up, to stop believing, to lose faith, then he wins. But if you stand firm, if you declare that no matter what happens, you will trust God, then you become unstoppable. This is why gratitude is so important. Even in seasons of struggle, there is always something to be thankful for. And when you shift your focus from what you lack to what you have, something incredible happens. Your perspective changes, your faith grows, and suddenly, doors that seemed closed begin to open. Faith is not just believing when things are going well, it is believing when everything looks impossible. It is trusting that even when you cannot see a way, God is already making one. It is choosing to praise Him, even in the middle of the storm. So do not let financial struggles define you. Do not let them steal your joy or shake your faith. Instead, let them refine you. Let them build you. Because when this season ends, and it will end, you will step into something great. God has not forgotten you. He has not abandoned you. He is working behind the scenes, aligning things in your favor, setting you up for something beyond what you can see right now. Keep going. Keep trusting, because your breakthrough is coming, and when it arrives, you will understand why the process was necessary. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt like your financial struggles were part of a bigger test? Have you seen moments where God provided in ways you did not expect? Share your story in the comments. Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if this message spoke to you, do not keep it to yourself, share it with someone who needs encouragement. Let's stand together in faith, knowing that God's plan is always greater than our struggles.